There comes a time in your life where you'll take a second and take a good hard look at yourself to see where you are in your life. If you're lucky, then you'll be content or even happy with the outcome of your current situation. And that's great. But most of the time, a majority of people will feel as if they're falling behind or not doing enough, maybe having self-doubts and some regrets. The feeling of self-inadequacy, in my opinion, is very common and can sometimes even be a good thing, depending on how you look at it and maybe even approach it. The feeling itself can stem from a few places. I don't think it's very specific to a certain space. I feel like the biggest cause of that feeling of self-inadequacy is comparing yourself to other people, especially now that social media is so big and a lot of people not only share a lot of their life online, but have a tendency to show the best version of what their life is online. And in comparing yourself and potentially where you are, if you're not happy, and comparing yourself to other people that are potentially, somewhere you want to be, or maybe somewhere where in your mind's eye is better than the position you're in, that is already that self feeling of inadequacy, of I'm not doing enough, and that can be self-imposed. There's also, not only comparing yourself to other people, but comparing yourself to the expectations that you had set for yourself. The expectations and the goals of where you thought you were going to be or wanted to be by a certain time in your life. And sometimes people take that hard look and they're not. And that's okay. There's a lot of different factors that go into, where you are and where you wanted to be. Some decisions were made, some were not made. Things happened a certain way, and it's definitely one of those like self-inflicted wounds of looking at the past and seeing what you could have done differently and having some of those regrets, knowing that maybe if I had done this a little differently, it would have been better. If I had done that instead of this, or if I haven't put my time into this and maybe focus more on this, there's always going to be that feeling of I could be where I'm at based off of the things that I didn't do. And that is possibly one of the worst things that you can do for yourself, because not only are you doing that to yourself, and then as well as potentially comparing yourself to other people that you see around you, there's also the external pressures that are put onto you from other people, maybe siblings, parents. I feel like parents is always a big one that, parents, they always want you to be better than them and they want you to be the best version of yourself that you can be. So they have these really high expectations of where you should be. And it's a bit disappointing to, I don't want to say necessarily let them down, but not be where they expected you to be, because, they're your parents. You want to make them proud. And, it's feeling that pressure that your parents are putting on you, as well as your own pressure that you're putting on yourself, as well as the pressure of comparing yourself to other people. For one of the biggest things that I try my best to really understand and get through my own head is comparison is the thief of joy. You can hit this really good milestone in your life and you'll really enjoy it and you'll feel happy and proud of yourself and, pat yourself on the back, say, I worked hard and I'm proud of myself for that. And then, look to your left and John Lawyer, fourth McLaren on the way, because whatever. And that comparison, I would still be proud of myself, or you can still be proud of yourself, but comparing yourself to someone that is in a different situation, in a different spot, through external factors that some can't control, kind of like dims your own light. And I feel like that's one of the worst ways that you can kind of handle that. In some sort of twisted, jimmy-rigged way, I feel like maybe one of the best ways that you can deal with that feeling is the 5 stages of grief, the grief cycle, because it's denial, bargaining, anger, depression acceptance. I don't remember the order. I'll put it up on the screen. But it's going to be kind of in those stages of, you will be in denial a little bit. You'll say like, no, I don't feel like that. I'm proud of where I am. I like where I'm at, all that good stuff. And I think you kind of take a second, take a look. You're going to get a little angry with yourself and, the situation that you're in. You're going to be angry at the decisions you made, the decisions you didn't make, feeling like life is unfair because certain people got certain things and you didn't get that. And sort of things like that kind of just fit that mold of like, not just self-anger, but kind of just anger towards everything. And then I feel like once you kind of get over that stage of anger, you will be a little depressed, a little down in the dumps, because it kind of hits you that you're sitting with the situation that you're in and the decisions that you've made. And you're, like I said, you're over that anger of it and you're kind of just sitting with it and letting it play over in your head again and again. And all that looping and overthinking and sitting in the decisions that you've made and where you are. And I think we might skip the bargaining step. That's why I said it's going to be a little Jimmy rigged. But I do think that the best way to possibly move forward is accepting that you're at where you're at. And I don't want to say like coming to terms with it, because I feel like you don't want to come to terms with such a negative feeling. But I want to say it's more of like an acceptance of that's where I'm at. I don't have to be happy about it. You can feel any way you feel about it, maybe fuel some fire under the butt or whatever gets you going. But accepting that you can't change the past and you can't change how other people feel about you and how other people see you. But you accept that you have gotten where you are and there is only forward to look towards. Now, post 5 stages of grief cycle, post acceptance. I feel the best way to deal with that would possibly be reframing it for the better. In the previous little, segment, I mentioned, accepting it and acknowledging where you are. That's going to be the big part because you know where you are now and you know where you want to be. You know that you feel inadequate and you think about it and then you know why. So you know the end goal of where you want to be, whether it's a short-term goal, a long-term goal. Set the goal there, baby steps. So you can start working towards something. And once you reach that, you can be proud of yourself knowing that you're taking steps in the right direction. Like I said, they can be baby steps. It doesn't have to be a super big goal, but at least knowing, hey, I accepted where I was. I set some goals to get where I want to be ultimately, and hitting those little milestones, I feel like will really kind of get the ball rolling and motivate you and then snowball into, just a full steam ahead. Train is bullet train fucking going 50 bajillion miles an hour, and it'll put you in a better headspace. I think something that people also have to do when it comes to this feeling is, it's going to be a bit corny to say, but giving yourself grace because, the situation that you're in and realizing that we are all human. But at the same time, it's your first time literally doing anything. You get one shot on planet Earth and no one is expecting you to do it a certain way. No one is expecting you to live a certain way, do a certain thing. And even if they do, it shouldn't matter. What should matter is you enjoying your life and giving yourself grace because you want to enjoy the limited time that we have here. Because the fact that we do not live forever is what makes life that much more precious. You don't want to waste it. You want to do what you can with the time that you can. And you can't do that if you're in such a negative headspace wallowing and, there's so many things that were out of your control and now you're here. But you got to get yourself out of that and really try your best to just move forward, which I know everyone's always like, just keep going, just keep going. Unfortunately, the same way that people say, yeah, waking up at the ass crack of dawn, going on a walk and drinking some water and going to bed at fucking 10 p.m. is going to make you feel better. And everyone's in denial. Dude, that shit works. It gets the job done. So I think ultimately it's just not being too hard on yourself and, setting goals and hitting that. And depending on how old you are, which I feel like that feeling of self-inadequacy it's something that I feel like a lot of younger people deal with, like maybe 21 to like 26, 27, maybe early 30s. There's so much time ahead of you. You don't have to rush everything. The 20s are for making mistakes, and the 30s are for kind of still getting your shit together. And if anyone expects you to have your shit together by 25, they're fucking delusional. Are you kidding me? The only people that have their shit together by 25 are like super geniuses or motherfuckers that are like rich, like big rich, because those are the resources that they have. So you still have so much time to get your shit together. And all in all, who cares? Because at the end of the day, as long as you're happy, we're all going to die in the end. The world is going to collapse. There's going to be economic collapse. The ice caps are melting. The aliens haven't contacted us. All we have is you and me. And do you really need anything else? Well, thanks for coming to my Pillow Talk. I just kind of wanted to rant about that feeling of self-inadequacy. Listen, I've been saying this entire video, I've been saying self-inadequacy. Is it self-inadequacy or self-inadequacy? I didn't feel like Googling it beforehand. Just wanted to rant about it because I feel that feeling a lot. And I have a couple friends that feel that way a lot, And if you stumbled upon this video and you don't feel that way, spread the love, send a couple G's, we're chilling. But I also wanted to rant about it to, let people know that you're not alone. A lot of people feel like that. A lot of people, with the world being run on social media, so many people post their highlights, never post their lowlights, and it's always the best thing that's going on in their life that they post. And it's so hard to, compare yourself to someone that's doing something completely different, but you never really know what's going on. That's just the surface stuff. And I mean, my entire rant is purely hypothetical. Everyone has their own way of dealing with stuff. My 5 stages of grief comparison was low-key dog water, but I'm a rock with it. But yeah, it's just, we're all in this together. Keep your head high. Talk to your loved ones, talk to your close friends. Make sure that, you have your avenues, you have your support system, you have your comfort. Because at the end of the day, what else do we have if not happiness? Mwah.